Please listen carefully.
Hi, I'm Paul Fields.
I'm Dave Guzman.
And welcome to Practical Bass, where each week we take an issue of interest to you, the working bass player, and we sort of take it apart and look at it from a lot of different directions and a lot of different aspects. Dave and I bring our own experiences as bass players to this podcast, but we also really like to hear from you, the listeners, about your experiences, and we really encourage you to share those with us. One place you can do that with us is via our Facebook group, Practical Bass. We have a page and a group that are linked, and we invite you to come join the community there and talk to us about the podcast, talk to us about ideas that you have for future episodes, questions that you would like answered, advice that you would like passed on. If you want to email us instead, you can do that as well. Just email podcast@practicalbass.com. You can visit our website, of course, at practicalbass.com, and you can use the contact form there if you prefer. And that goes right to me and Dave. We read everything that we get. We also have some other resources there on the site. Of course, there's the archives of all of our past episodes, but you can also find information on how to subscribe to the podcast, which we hope you will do after you have heard this episode or others if you haven't done so already. So we encourage you to do that. Today, we're going to talk about an interesting topic, one that's a little provocative, security and safety at gigs. It's always sort of a touchy topic.
Yeah.
Dave, what is an unsafe situation that you have been in at a gig?
I think there are a few.
More than one.
There may be more than one.
Possibly.
And so this one that I'm going to give, this one's going to be, I had to figure out which one was like sort of in the middle.
Yeah, audience appropriate.
Audience appropriate,
But
dangerous enough.
Yeah, dangerous enough and illustrative.
So, yes, I was playing, this was maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I was at an outdoor venue, kind of middle of the summer, super hot.
Yeah.
The venue was outdoors, not a big crowd, right around like the 50 people, and kind of like a shirt and shoes optional.
Yeah, like an easygoing courtyard or beach or something like that.
Also like a bring your own kind of like come with your cooler.
Oh, BYOB. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Just didn't know what I was getting into. And
was it a private party or was this
it's kind of private. Yeah, it was like a membership type place.
Okay,
it was almost like a kind of campsite / golf community.
Okay. This wasn't a sex club then.
No, didn't go that way.
Okay. All right. Just making sure.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe it did. I wasn't there for afterward. It's possible,
You didn't
right?
stick around to find out what happened. Okay.
Yeah, I kind of knew because by the time, like, once I started loading, like around 6 or 7 p.m., it was like I was having conversations with some folks, and I was already picking up, like, oh, it's been a long day for these people already.
Yeah.
Like they've already been at it.
Things are winding down.
Things are winding up.
Oh,
it's like different. It's like they've been taking them back. They're like, this is,
this is the BYOB coming. The BYOB
this is like,
chickens coming home to roost.
This is like partying. This is the hour they've all been waiting for, you know.
People have been drinking.
Yeah.
Now they're really going to start drinking.
Yeah. And so the place gets like, it's it's like kind of like this pavilion area, and they're all like packed under, and it's, it's kind of cool. It's okay-ish. And, but there was a couple that were basically like not happy at all with the music that we were playing.
Oh, they just didn't like
the music,
the group. Like they're just,
yeah. It wasn't the quality of it was like they didn't like the songs we were playing.
Yeah.
Which is really tough to deal with as a band.
These are the songs.
These are
the songs. This is what
like,
we do.
Hey, we have like, 50 to 75 songs. That's all we got. Sorry, And I don't know, there was like at the end, right at the end of one set, there was like a little scuffle, and then one of my bandmates, I think, might have commented back.
Yeah.
Like if you don't like it, then just go or something like that.
Oh, yeah. Like, in other words, an ungenerous comment.
Yeah. All I know is that set break, like, I feared my life.
Oh.
Like, this guy was not small. He was big.
Yeah.
He was not in a solid state of mind. They were talking about pulling out guns. He was like ready to like get at it. And I had to calm the situation down because I'm like the mediator.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like dialed that back. And then I realized there are just some gigs I just don't, like I shouldn't be at.
Yeah.
There's some you just got to pull the plug or,
Yeah.
you know, just be super cautious, super careful. So that's one, you know. And maybe have more songs in your playlist. So if they don't like that, like play songs they do like.
Yeah.
If you're in that situation,
Have a few in your pocket.
have a few in your
You
pocket.
can take out
Yeah.
like crazy things that you wouldn't otherwise do.
Yeah.
Rawhide.
Yes, we do Freebird. Okay, here we go. How about you? Yeah, I'm sure you have a story or two.
Well, a few. I mean, so the incident I remember that sticks out of my mind, just from a security standpoint, was we had done a gig at a music hall. It's a pretty cool place, a pretty cool like concert joint, and we had loaded most of the heavy stuff into the van at that point. And the rest of the band was sort of inside, they're schmoozing, they're, talking to people and hanging out and whatnot. And our instruments and stuff were still inside, like basically our personal effects. Like we usually brought those out last, after everything else was done, we'd move those in last. And I went out, I can't remember what it was. I think I found I don't know, it was either a bag or something that I, was doing a idiot check around the stage and found something that was like I need to grab that. That's one of our stands or something like that.
Yeah.
And went out to the van and I go out the backstage door or whatever. The van's parked in the alley, next to this place. And I open up and there's this guy there, like casing the van. And I mean, it was not subtle. It wasn't like he was sauntering by giving it a look. I mean, he's up against the van, with, he's got his, he's got his hand up, to his forehead, looking in the shaded windows of the van, trying to figure out like what's inside.
Oh, he was just checking out your odometer to see how many miles you had on it, so he could give you a good offer for the van because he really liked the van.
Actually, that crossed my mind. That was the second thing that crossed my mind, was that he wanted to buy it.
I want to give you an offer.
Yeah, so that was not cool. Yeah, and he saw me and he kind of like, hey, are you guys in the band? I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh, is this your stuff? I'm like, yeah.
Yep.
And he's like, oh, cool. All right. And then he just kind of like walks up, and he walks off really fast and like looks back at me and then like, rounds the corner or whatever. And I'm like, I opened the stage door and I yelled for like one of my buddies in the band to like come out and just camp with me by the van.
Right. And see, and I think it's funny because we look at the safety and security. There are definitely multiple aspects of it, right? So there's like security of yourself, there's security of your bandmates, of your gear, just so many so many different angles of that we just have to be, I think as any gigging musician, you just find yourself in, just different situations that are not your average 9 to 5 kind of situations.
You're going to be in places and in situations that you don't run into, like the other 99% of, citizens they don't deal with that. I mean, I don't know, maybe in a few places like certain Walmarts or something like that, I guess. Sure. But
and it's funny because, before we started this recording, Paul and I were laughing about kind of just realizing that as gigging musicians, you really do you hold this sort of double life.
Yeah.
And you balance that out. And you do it with a level of respect about how you approach it and ways that you're careful about it. But you do have to kind of put on this costume of I go to my 9 to 5, I do this. And then, then I'm a rock star.
Yeah.
And I'm
yeah.
playing at this dive joint or whatever.
Right. This place that otherwise I wouldn't be caught dead in, but
Right.
that's places paying good money for, live music and whatnot.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's, that's part of it.
And
so
yeah, and you kind of, you put yourself in situations sometimes that are, they're not what you would find in other workplaces, right? Like every workplace has, safety regulations or things that apply. And, that's really not any different than if you go to whether you go to a concert hall or a pub or whatever. Of course, those are workplaces for people.
Yeah.
And they're regulated as well.
Right.
Right. But, nights get late and, there's booze flowing and whatnot. And, that kind of changes the equation from what you're going to run across in like an office or, a restaurant during the day or, or some, a construction site or whatever, you're doing during the day. Like it completely changes the tenor of what's going on. And
yeah, you kind of end up sometimes just by the nature of the job, you end up like on the outskirts of like those rules.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's when you have to be, I think the main thing is you have to be more attentive to your environment. When you go into work normally, you kind of know what to expect there because, you've been to that building 100 times. You go to it every single day and you probably could, sleepwalk or, be blindfolded, find your way to your desk, the cafeteria, whatever, because you've done it, a million times.
Right.
But you're not at some of these venues, more than, once, maybe a couple times a year, or in some cases, maybe once a month if you have a residence type gig or something like that.
That's right.
But yeah, I mean, you have to be careful. So, I don't know, there are a few things that occur to me to, kind of like apply to the personal security, which is, that navigation thing, right? The blindfolding. You're not going to be in a place where you really know the environment necessarily that well. So you should be aware of the structure that's around you. Like where are things? Like where is the fire exit, for example?
Yeah.
Like where are the bathrooms located? How far are those away? Is there an office or a security booth or anything like that? Like where's that located?
Right.
Where are the important structures? Is there a manager? Where's their office?
Yeah.
Wherever you're going.
I just had a gig this past week and it was an outdoor venue. My sister and brother-in-law happened to be in town, so they came to the show, and my wife was telling me this piece about how like my brother-in-law basically, like as soon as he gets there, he looks like he's lost, like he's looking for, where the girls are.
Right.
But really, like, it's his thing. He kind of like crosses his arms, stands up tall, and just kind of scans the whole area, and that's like his thing.
Yeah.
My dad actually does the same thing. Once my wife said that, I was like, oh, my dad does the same thing. It's like a security scan of like, where is everything?
Where are the risks?
Yeah.
What do I need to be careful about?
Like if you're driving on the highway, like, where's my exit?
Yeah.
Where, and it's, someone might laugh at that, but it actually is a very good and it's an easy practice to put in place just to know, like, where is everything?
Yeah.
How big is this stage?
Yeah.
Where am I going to slip off this thing?
Oh, yeah.
Because people slip off the stage.
There's a thing like I have, it's never happened to me yet, knock on wood, but I have this paranoid fear of like, being the next Dave Grohl, not in the sense of being famous and unimaginably rich and getting to hang out.
There's
with
no
all
fear of that.
Like the cooler.
Yeah,
no, that's
no
never
fear.
going to happen. I don't fear that at all because it's not even a possibility. But like falling off a stage and breaking something like that, I could easily see myself doing. And so I'm super paranoid about that. You don't have to, I'm not telling the listeners they got to be paranoid about it, but you should be aware of like, what's the space I'm going to be working in? Like how much room do I have to move around?
Yeah.
Like, where's the edge of the stage?
And, is there glass around the stage? Like window glass?
Yeah. Yeah. Like
people fly through that stuff.
Who knows? Like, I mean, there can be risks when you look around, like what's the construction of the venue?
Mm-hmm.
Like how close are the tables that people sit at near the stage, if there are
Right.
some, right? Like how close are those?
Yep.
Do you have to be worried if somebody like, comes in and sits down at one of those and like you said, like
Right.
they don't dig what you're doing? Like
Right.
how close are they to you?
Right.
Do they present a risk?
Yeah.
But yeah, those structures and things in the environment,
Yeah.
here's another thing that occurs to me. Electrical.
Right.
That has actually, so there was a place that one of my bands played monthly, and the owner of this place, fantastic lady. We really liked her. And one thing I remember about that place is there was an outlet, there's an electrical outlet that we had to use. And it was hanging in there by a thread.
Right.
It was like, there's no way, if an inspector showed up, there was no way this is going to pass code. And we had to use
Yeah.
it. And every time I was worried that I was going to electrocute myself or somebody else. They did finally fix it. After a year of gigs there, and we were so happy. At least I was like, oh my God, I don't have to worry about dying anymore when I plug something in.
Hey, if you've ever gotten popped on the lip with a microphone,
Yes, it's not fun.
it's not fun, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you could actually die, but it'll definitely wake you the heck up. Like,
Yeah.
it-
You would, yeah.
you'll know what happened. Sometimes like it
Hello.
happens like a few seconds later, which is even
Yeah.
weirder. Like it hits and you're
Yeah.
like, wait, what just happened?
Yeah.
That
I just
really
felt a
hurt.
zing. Where did that zing on my lip come from?
So, after I got hit a couple times that way, if there's like an extension cord that everything kind of plugs into,
Yeah.
I don't trust the extension cord.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
why is everything going into one extension
Yeah.
cord?
Like a grounding
I always
problem.
snake it back to like, where is this? Like, is that extension cord going into like the converter, like the 3-prong to the 2-prong?
Right. Yes.
I want to know about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
The famous hack. And then suddenly, like when things are plugged up in a certain way, it's like suddenly you've lost your ground and then you become the ground, which
Right.
is awesome.
Oh, that's what they needed that 3rd prong for.
Yeah. Those crazy electricians.
Yeah. But know
Yeah.
your environment. I love it. I think that's great.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
And then there's also, knowing the things around you is one thing, but then like being aware
Right.
of the people around you as well.
Yep.
Right. And that's going to vary from place to place too. Right. Being able to read a crowd
Yep.
is not just something you should leave to the front man. It's something
Right.
that every performer should kind of, have an awareness, just hearing the tenor of what's going on in the joint. Like there are times where you get lost in your music and, you're trying to have a certain kind of performance and that's great. And, I'm not saying that you want to avoid that,
Right.
but definitely at those breaks between songs or, when you're just kind of holding down a groove and you have some mental capacity to spare,
Yeah.
right? Just be looking around, just kind of be aware of, what's happening around you. Is there a guy who's getting like,
Right.
handsy or pushy with a woman that clearly is not with him at the bar? Or,
Right.
are there some guys who are starting to like kind of escalate their conversation to a
Yep.
point where it seems more like an argument than
Yeah.
a couple guys hanging out having fun or whatever.
Right. Is there a group of folks that came in that started to cause some kind of intense
Yeah.
situation, which
Yeah.
may not, and it happens and it may not be bad. It's just a matter of like monitoring it, watching the people of the venue. Like,
Yeah.
do they recognize that it's going on?
Yeah.
Just making sure that you know what the situation is so you don't get caught like blindsided.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Whatever goes down is going to go down. But at least be aware of it, and at least be in a spot where maybe from a musical standpoint, you can sometimes control that. If it's heating up, don't whatever. Just be aware of where that's at.
Yeah. Yeah. The awareness is really key. And,
Yeah.
if you're going to be aware, I mean, this probably sounds, I don't want it to come off like school marmish, but, I like to go to a gig and, I'll have a couple beers on stage and nothing, I don't get crazy, but,
Right.
I'll, just something to, take the edge off or whatever. But
Right.
you have to be able to be attentive, and that means you need to know your limits on stage. Like you can't,
Yeah.
if you're going to be in a place where there are some risks or where things aren't quite what you expected, the last thing you want to do is put yourself in a situation where you can't make a good judgment call.
Right.
Right.
Totally.
And be able to react, timely when you need to.
Exactly.
Right. Not being able to do that is that is probably one of the biggest risks, is like just, having your normal behavioral circuits just
Dulled.
shorted out.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Totally.
And then, the story I told earlier was like, a post gig thing. And that kind of
Right.
like, that kind of makes me think of, what are the other things that we can do after a gig to,
Right.
to be safe.
Yeah. And a lot of that, when we look at after the gig, a lot of that is about, protecting your instruments and making sure like there's a lot of movement, just be aware of where your instruments and equipment is going, making sure that there's either someone that's like on the other side of that collecting end where it's going.
Yeah.
Or if it's just you like moving your own gear.
Yep.
Don't take shortcuts at like 1 a.m, 2 a.m. Lock it up, even if it's only a few steps.
Right.
Lock the car, go back, get your stuff, come back, unlock. Like, just kind of being fully aware of that and aware of what the surroundings are, wherever your car is, and just kind of knowing. Like,
is it well lit? Are you close enough to the venue? Like, I mean, I usually will move. Like, I'll get my stuff close to the venue.
Yeah,
so
me
that,
too. Right.
Whenever possible, so that I'm not in this dangerous situation of like just having this area of vulnerability where you're going from a structure out across a lot or whatever.
Right.
Just these things sound small until they're not. Right.
Yeah. That's all of this safety stuff is about. Make sure, like, don't hang around the venue after it's closed and everyone's walking away and no one cares and it gets quiet real fast.
Yeah.
Just have a plan with your bandmates, especially if you're out of town. Like, know where you're all going to go meet up.
Yeah.
Know who's driving.
Yeah.
If you're the guy that had like a little bit too much fun that gig, like,
don't be the driver.
Don't be the driver.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, these are all like safety things that you just, if you're gigging regularly, you need to keep it in because if not, then you're increasing the chance, the risk.
Yeah. And there's, you mentioned like have a plan, like if you're going to go hang out, don't do it after the closing of the venue or whatever. One thing, and this just comes by, way of a story that I heard, is if you're planning a place to go, like don't plan it in the middle of the parking lot at full volume after everybody has left, because who's out there listening or whatever.
That's right.
Very easy for them to follow your gear to wherever you're going.
Right.
And you go into Denny's to have late night breakfast at 3 a.m. and then you come out at 4:30 a.m. and everything's gone.
Right.
Because somebody heard what the plan was. So you got to be again, be able to make the judgment call of making those plans at the right time and place with the right amount of subtlety and privacy.
That's right. And, and part of this security thing is just as you're mentioning, like the security of your own instruments. And sometimes I have to leave my instruments in my car, right? For an extended period, it's longer than I'd feel comfortable, right? But for whatever reason, like they have to stay in the car.
Yeah.
I do not leave my instruments looking sexy as a mother, like in my car.
Yeah.
I try to like hide them.
Hidden under a tarp or, whatever.
I have like a blanket that I kind of throw over or just like kind of make it look just messy and weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not going to put like my nice like mono case looking like beautiful right out there. Like, ooh, look at me.
Right.
Because it's real easy to break a glass.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Yeah. And, so we talked about the personal security and, we're kind of, I think, shading into the gear security aspects, which are also really important. Right. And, part of this is you don't want your gear to be stolen. Right. But there's also the side of this is just keeping your gear from getting injured.
Right.
Right. Just like, we want to keep your body from getting injured. We also want you to keep your gear from getting injured.
Right.
So for example, I talked about the wonky electrical circuit,
Right.
I always had a power conditioner or at least a surge protector between that and anything else that we were running.
Totally.
Because, if that electrical circuit went kerblooey, right? I didn't want to lose, $1,000 amp.
Right.
Because, some wonky, electrical outlet.
Are conditioners expensive?
No, they don't have to be.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you can get ones that, they run a range.
Right.
I would say if you're spending under $100, it's probably not a very good power conditioner.
Right.
It's not really a conditioner. Like it might be a surge protector, but maybe not even that.
Okay.
But they're $150 and up, $200, $300 will buy you a decent power conditioner. Like a Furman or something like that.
Clearly, I don't have one. If I'm asking, someone in my band does, but I'm always curious. Yeah.
Yes, they're good to have it, But again, at least just have even just a surge protector, like a $30 surge protector, can be the difference between losing your amp and not. And then there's instruments, right?
Mm-hmm.
Having a stand that is stable and in good condition, like. Don't bring an instrument without a stand. One of the bands I was working with recently.
People do it all the time.
Yeah. I mean, I was working with this guy and he bought this beautiful new guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it wasn't new, but that was one of the reasons why it was so beautiful. It was amazing.
Right.
It was a little bit older and it was like, this was a several $1,000 guitar.
Mm.
And he just, leave it line up on his amp, just angled, just, literally just laying against the amp. Where, if anybody walked by it the wrong way or it could just, get knocked over and, suddenly the headstock is another piece.
Yep.
The headstock becomes an accessory instead of part of your guitar. Or, somebody could walk up to it and just snag it, Cases are cheap. You can run pretty fast with a $9 or a 9-pound guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm a minimalist, right, when it comes to like bringing gear on the stage, but always the stand.
Yeah,
I just can't.
I have the Velcro. I mean, it's that little Velcro Mark bass. Again, I'm always plugging these guys, but it was just so thoughtful. They make this little Velcro thing that you just, if your amp is covered in the the fuzzy material or whatever, the fabric, you can just Velcro this thing to your amp. You don't need to bring a stand. You can just have your guitar leaning on your amp, but it's held there by this Velcro. And I mean, it's super stable. It's, it's not going to just like fall open. There's no way for that to happen. It's like, this is some serious NASA level Velcro.
Right. So what do you put under your bass for that?
I usually don't put anything, as long as I'm on a carpeted, if I'm in a, on a carpet thing.
If it's a hard surface, do you?
If it's a hard surface, then I usually have like a cleaning cloth or something in my case, and I'll just throw that underneath, But yeah, definitely like it's easy to keep your instrument out of danger is the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess one last point about, the stage is we talked about amps, we talked about your guitars.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about electricity, but what's the one thing that we all kind of do, whether it's a beer or whether it's water or whatever, you're probably bringing liquid on stage at some point.
That's right.
And, doesn't mix well with electrical gear.
So he's like that uncomfortable moment of like, what do I do with this anyways? I got this drink in my hand.
Yet I have to play.
Right?
Where
does
I
it
put
go?
It? Well, one place you don't want to put is like on top of your amp. That's a very bad place to put that stuff.
Yeah. We can start there. Where not to put it.
Yeah. Don't put it on your amp. And frankly, don't put it on the stage.
Right.
Like by itself, like, and I've been guilty of this too.
Sure.
And, one time out of 3, I end up knocking the darn drink. Maybe it's just water.
And when you're on stage, like bad enough that you have to deal with like the cables.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is just figuring out the cables as is, right?
Yes.
Like however that's all lined up and tangled and try to like neaten them up as much as possible. But then you add like another, it's like you're adding more obstacles.
Right. You're just making your life harder.
Yeah.
So, where do you put your drink then?
Right.
I have one of the best gifts I ever got. And I joke about it every time I do a gig. Well, maybe not every time, but I joke about it quite a bit, which is, I take this out of my bag and I'm always like, oh, most important piece of equipment is getting ready here. And I take it out. It's this Gibraltar. It's like a hinged piece of hardware that you just, it attaches around a mic stand and you tighten it up with these flywheels, just like a, drum hardware,
Right.
because it's literally made out of steel. It's like indestructible.
Yeah.
And then it's got this, this net, and basically it's just a cup holder. It's like a fabric cup holder,
Right. Right.
but it's indestructible. It's not one of those plastic dealies.
Right.
It's like, this thing is
Right.
going to be with me until I'm dead and gone. I'll pass it on to my kids or something, or my grandkids. And it's great
heirloom.
because you put it on your mic stand, and it's not very heavy, but you can put your drink right next to the mic stand. You can reach it. It's out of your way. You're not going to knock it over. It's at hand, and it's not going to fall over into your amp or anything else. So,
this is wild, but I actually have, I found it in like a bargain bin, like the items at the music store is just trying to like get rid of. And it was a plastic tray that clips onto your mic stand.
Yeah.
And so it's basically like, if I could imagine, it's more than a half moon. It's like a 3/4 moon shape, right?
it's like a very small dinner tray.
It's like a small dinner tray. Yeah, like from one end to the other, like if it completed the full circle, the diameter would be probably, 10 to 12 inches.
Yeah, that's great. So it's got quite a bit of room. You can put
One side it has like a cup
things on
holder,
it. Yeah.
a nice wide cup holder, and deep, and all plastic, right? Hard plastic,
Yeah.
and then it has like an edge around the circle, right? So you can put like your phone, you can put your keys, like I could put like my newspaper on there.
That's
Like,
great.
it's just a whole thing right there.
Yeah. So there's another hack that I saw somebody do, which is like take a those rack cases. Like there are a few of them here in the studio. There's the rack cases where you have your amps and stuff. If you just pull off the lid of one of those,
Right.
put it on stage, like on the drum riser,
Oh.
or at worst, like in the perimeter, like out of the way.
Right.
Right. If you don't have any other alternatives, you put your drinks in that lid, because if they fall over, all that happens is the liquid's going to collect in the lid, and it's not going to get all over your cables, whatever else is on the floor.
Or your amp.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that's definitely like, it's the way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and the thing I always try and remember is, remember that the equipment that you're using sometimes is not yours. Like if you go to a jam or, you sit in with somebody, or,
That's right.
the last thing that you want to do is leave them with this impression, oh, that guy came and they spilled beer all over my amp, or whatever. What a terrible spot to be in. Yeah, you won't get that. You won't get a call back. For sure.
Forget his playing. That was even worse.
He was drunk and he spilled everything.
That's right.
Oh, man. Well, that's as good a place to stop as any, I guess. We hope that you guys have gotten something out of this little chat on security and safety at gigs, and we hope that you'll remain safe and secure for your gigs. Do you have any tips for other musicians on how to be safe and secure, both in their person and their gear? If you do, we would love you to share those with us. Go to our Facebook page or group. Just look for Practical Bass. Find us there. You can join up with our community there and leave us a message. We'd love to hear from you. You can also email us at podcast@practicalbass.com, or visit us at the practicalbass.com website and use the contact form there. That'll come by email to me and Dave. We read everything that we get there. Most importantly, we hope you guys will subscribe to this podcast and share it with fellow musicians, especially bass players, but not just them. We welcome musicians of all types. You can also find us on the other socials, Google+, Twitter, Instagram. We really do look forward to hearing from you. And we really hope that you will subscribe to the podcast. It's very easy. If you're not familiar with the operation, you can visit the website at practicalbass.com/subscribe for some hints. But it really is this easy. If you have an iPhone, just use the podcasts app. You can use Google Play Music on your Android device. You can use iTunes on your macOS computer or Stitcher Radio on any platform, and search for Practical Bass. And then when the subscribe link comes up, hit it and you will get a new episode delivered to you fresh, hot off the press every week. And of course, it's absolutely free, as always. And so until then, I'm Paul Fields.
I'm Dave Guzman.
And this has been Practical Bass.
Thanks for listening. So I walk up to the house, and then like the door was kind of open, and then a Rottweiler starts like coming at me. I'm like, so I run with drop my amp. I take my bass. That's how you know what's more important.
Right.
I drop
this amp is heavy and it's going to slow me down.
I'll save the bass.
Yeah.
Drop the wife, take the baby.